What's going on? It's Kevin Kenny, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Build Series Live here in New York City. And our guest today has more #1 singles in the UK than any other solo female artist in history. Her music has been streamed over 2.5 billion times on Spotify alone. Let's make some noise for Jess Glynne.
Hello.
We were just playing your music here in the studio, and I was saying that's the mark of a great song is when you have heard it probably a million times by now, and you still got to sing along.
Yeah, I still love it. It's not been out that long, I guess, so.
Well, you know what's funny about that song? And we're talking about I'll Be There, by the way, the new single, the new #1 single, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Your
much.
7th.
Yeah,
not
amazing.
to brag.
Wow, thank you.
But when I heard that song, if I remember correctly, I think it was one of the first songs like on that New Music Friday. And it just sounded like a song that I couldn't believe didn't exist yet. Because it was so obvious, it was so undeniable. It was like, oh my, this sounds so good. How has no one thought of this song yet? But take me back to the sort of the beginnings of that song and the inspiration for it.
Okay, so I'll Be There came about towards the end of last year. My friend was going through like an awful heartbreak, like about this time last year, and she kind of turned to my album, I Cry When I Laugh, and she sent me this message, and I hadn't really seen her for a while. I think I'd been away, I don't know. And she sent me this message, and it was like an essay, but it was basically saying, thank you so much for being there. Without knowing, you've basically just got me through one of the hardest times. And I just have been listening to your album on a totally different level, like as a fan, and I didn't realize that your lyrics went that deep, and the hope that came through your record has just got me to such a better place. And just, I don't know, I read this message and I just burst into tears. And we just, don't know, developed this like connection and became a lot closer, friendship. And she came down to the studio at the end of last year. I took like a group of people away to write the album in the middle of nowhere. And she came down on the last day to this house where we were in Sussex. And I was finishing something off in another room, and she went down to the other room and started this idea. And then I came down shortly after she'd been there, and they'd started this idea. And she was like, look, I've started something, got it kind of going to a place, but let's just play you it and see whether you like it. She played it, and it was like, I'll be there. And I was like, started crying again. I'm quite emotional. And I was like, is that for me? She was like, yeah, I think it's like, anyway, yeah. And then we basically finished the song from there. So it kind of came from a place of like, somebody writing it for me, as well as me writing it with them for everyone and for, you know, whoever feels like they're on their own feeling like shit.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I didn't know that, because when I heard this song, and the great thing about music is we all listen to music, and whatever it is for you doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, everyone interprets it in their own way.
Yeah, you internalize it. And so when I heard this song, I internalized it, and it was about music. Like, music is something that, you know, whether I'm low or whether I'm alone at a bar, like it says in the song, you know, music is there for me. And I love that. Yeah. I love that music is your own music is what sort of this was born out of.
Yeah.
But I imagine you've probably been through some low points in your life.
Yeah.
You're having massive success now. But what is a song or an artist or an album looking back that was there for you?
An album looking back that was there for me. I think Frank by Amy Winehouse was an album that was definitely there for me. And I just think that her as an artist and her as a musician and her honesty and her realness really kind of inspired me to be an artist, not just be a singer, but to be an artist.
Yeah, I've read that. You've said that, I think, in past interviews where there are a lot of inspirations, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, right? But I think that maybe speaking more to their vocal capacity, their vocal talents, where Amy was like the first artist, it sounds like, for you that you really related to on a personal level.
Yeah, I think like just having similar backgrounds, coming up from a similar place, and like her and Lauryn Hill were two people. When I received those albums and I started listening to them, the content was just, it was different, you know? Like, I think growing up, you always think songs are about love. I don't know, I did anyway. And those songs weren't just about love, they were about life and they were about experiences. And I think it just kind of opened my mind to like, music is actually therapy. It's not just music and just like fun. It's actually, there's a deeper level to it. Because when you're a kid, obviously you don't look that, you just don't look that deeply. You don't have a mind like that, you haven't lived yet. So like the older you get and you realize and you actually pay attention, because I used to listen to songs and write down, like I didn't have like necessarily always have internet at home or whatever. Like, it's a different time now. Where like, so like, I used to write the lyrics down to songs that I loved and just like put them down in like a book and what have you. And that was kind of how I understood what they were about and how they kind of formulated the songs. And that's what kind of got me into songwriting.
That's awesome. You talk about how music can be therapeutic. I know you've said in past interviews that songwriting specifically you is like therapy.
Yeah.
Is there a song looking back, whether it's on this album or your first album, that was the most therapeutic?
I think there's two songs from the first album and also from this album. I think the first album, Take Me Home, was was definitely a lot. But I think it helped me a lot, massively, and it's one of those songs that I hold very close to home. And there's also a song on the new album called Hate Love, which again I think was a very emotional journey in writing, but it also, again, kind of got me through a moment in time that I wasn't enjoying, but yeah.
What is Hate Love about?
Hate Love is about... Do you know when you like love someone so much, but they've hurt you and you kind of hate them? And it's like, I don't ever hate anybody in life just because I don't hold grudges. I think I always try to look at the positive situation. Like, at the end of the day, you know, I've been hurt, I guess. I've had a broken heart just like everybody has. But I've learnt from it and I've grown from it and I've moved on from it. And I guess that song is kind of reminiscent of like a dark time, but actually it's kind of saying, you know what, even through all of that, I still love you. Just because when you love someone, I don't think that love ever goes away whether you're still together or not.
Yeah. On the topic of songwriting, I know that you wrote "I'll Be There" with about like 5 or 6 people. It was kind of like a team effort on this song,
Yeah,
right?
it was quite a lot of us.
But it's sort of the modern way of songwriting, and I think why we're getting such great music these days. What does that look like, though? Because you hear that as a fan, you're like, wow, that's so many people, that's so cool, it's very collaborative.
It's weird because I think when you see it on paper, it looks quite different as well to how it actually happens in the studio. So like, there was like 5 artists involved. So it was like a group called Electric, who are producers, a guy called Star Smith, who's like producer, and then there was me, Camille, and this guy called Jerker. And Electric came up with kind of like this musical thing, and then Finn and Camille kind of came with like the like skeleton of the record, and then me, Finn and Camille kind of like finished that, I guess, with Jerker as well. But everyone had like a little part, I guess. But it's for me, it's like the most amazing thing about making music, because everybody's input is like so important, even if it is just that sound. Do you know what I mean? Because without that sound, the song wouldn't sound the way it does.
Right.
And without that melody, it wouldn't be, you know? So it's like all those little things like massively help. And sometimes it's great to just write like just 2 of you or just 3 of you. And sometimes it's really fun just to have like a group of you in a room. And like, that's why I did, for this album, I took like all these people to this house. It wasn't that many of us, it was like 10 of us. But like for a week, and it was just like, I kind of put together a program-ish type thing just to kind of have a little bit of structure, just so that people could kind of wake up and go into a room and like start a jam or what have you. But there was no pressure, you know, it was kind of, if you're feeling it, feel it. If you're not, you're not, then go chill, have something to eat or go to another room. And that's where, you know, people like move around and go into a room, have an idea, give it to you. Do you know what I mean? That's how like songs have so many people sometimes involved in them.
It's like all the inhabitants of the house.
Yeah, it was just like such an amazing atmosphere. Everybody I knew really well, felt comfortable with. And if you came in and just sang something that felt good, I was like, yeah, sick.
And I'm so happy you wrote this album the way you did write it, because if you don't know, you know, your first album came out 4 years ago, 2014?
15.
2015, so not even 4 yet, 3 years ago. Yeah. But you toured off that for about 3 or 2 years straight, and then you kind of allotted this time to write your new album. And I think that's so important, because I think a lot of artists these days have to write their album on the road due to economics and what have you. But it kind of sounds like they made it on the road. You know, there's a different sound to a record where you commit time to and you focus in on the record. And you also need that time away from the road, I think, to draw from inspirations.
You've got it. You've obviously done your research. honestly, because do you know, like I started, so I was on the road for like 2.5 years after that, and you know, I did start writing when I was on the road. I actually, in 2016, when it was like the maddest touring year, in April I had like a week or two, I had like 10 days, and I was like, I want to go in the studio, and I got in. And it was amazing. I had like a wicked like 10 days like in writing and stuff, but I was so in between. There was no kind of, I was lost, I guess. I wasn't ready to kind of commit to a record, as fun as it was. But once I stopped and I actually kind of like took a kind of look back on everything that happened and had a minute to just sit and chill and not, you know, focus on going on the road and going here and do that and da-da-da. I could just focus on me. It was like, okay, now I'm ready to really write a record.
Totally. And I feel like, you know, what's so great about your music and what's led you to having so many #1 hits is that it comes from a real place and a relatable place. And as great as being on the road is, like the average person can't relate to that, you know?
No,
so you need
no
to be
one
living
can.
in a house. You need to be talking to friends like you did. You know what I mean? Talking about like, you know, times you had, you know, jokes, what have you. You have to draw from like a real, relatable human experience.
Yeah, I feel like I
don't.
like to be honest. I think the only way that I can really write is by like kind of digging deep and just talking from personal experience. And, you know, I think I can tell stories, but it doesn't come as naturally to me.
Yeah. There's a great music video that goes along with this that we played at the top, but I wanted to talk about a couple scenes here. You shot it in Mexico, I think, right? And you shot it with like your best friend's also your creative director, or who's this person?
Jolene. So Jolene's like we've worked together since like I went to school with her, so it was like we've had this amazing relationship for I don't know how many years now. Scary.
That's awesome.
And we came up with this concept where, you know, the song's about, you know, it's kind of like you start at a place of like of broken and feeling like at your lowest, and gradually through this video you kind of gain your strength and your power back. And we just wanted to like give that impression through all the scenes, and in these epic kind of scenarios.
Are those real tears at the top?
Yeah, I know.
A little bit of real tear?
Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
I'm
well,
an
no,
honest
it's great.
person.
It's great
It's
acting.
difficult when you've got like what happens is behind me. Do you want to know like behind the scenes?
No, I'd love to.
So burning that house, right? You've got like a limited amount of time, and so like from the minute they light it, you have X amount of shots, and so you have to. This was all done in double time, so it was like and so basically. I had like maybe 4 goes of literally walking down there, and I was walking a lot faster than that. And you can't just cry like that. So it's really weird how it turns out because no one ever knows. I guess unless you show the like behind the scenes, which I do have some, but I haven't released it yet. But yeah, it was so mad. So I only had this short amount of time. The fire was so hot, and I was wearing like latex. So I thought I was going to explode because apparently if it gets really hot, it explodes. And then, so to cry like that, not that easy. So I had my makeup artist has this stuff. And so within the second, she's like, oh my God. And they're like, go, run. And you're like, we've only got like 2 more shots. You're like, and they're like, put the tear in her eye. She's like, oh. And I'm like going blind. It's like, whoa.
Turns into an action movie out of nowhere.
Proper. I was like, and she was like, oh, no, running. And she was like quite slow at running. They were like, Joe, run! Yeah, it was a lot.
It's amazing.
It's another Joe, but yeah.
I gotta ask about this other scene in the video too. It's I thought it was water, but somebody told me it was sand. This pink shot right here. What is
water.
that?
No, it's water.
Oh, it's water. Okay.
So this is pink water, and so it's basically salt lakes. So like, this is real.
That's
and it's
crazy.
Really salty. It's like got the highest content of salt. It's quite like it's not that. I think it's a bit dangerous to go in, even though I did go in it.
Did you really?
I did. I had to, but they had to like these whole precautions. Like they had to set up this shower, and they had to set up all this stuff like in order.
Got to sign a contract.
Kind of like I was really terrified actually. So they were walking me over, and because it's so high, it dries your skin out crazy. So you have to get out really quick. And they wanted me to go underwater, and you know what salt's like in your eye.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. It made for a beautiful shot though.
But I was scared I was gonna go blind, but I didn't.
You almost sacrificed a lot.
I was
You almost
more
blew
scared
up.
about
You
my
almost went
eyes.
blind.
Yeah, I was more scared about my eyes, but then when I went under, it was actually the most painful thing was in my nose.
Oh, no way. way.
Yeah, it was like, I'm not even going to say what it was like because it was, but just imagine something going up there 10 times a million.
Yeah.
That pain.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was like, whoa. That was the biggest pain, and it lasted a while, but then I was all right.
And then I want to talk about the record, of course. I want to make time for that.
Yeah.
Always in Between, the title of the
Yeah.
record, is that come from sort of this feeling that you had trying to make the record on the road and kind of feeling like you were in between places? Or where does that title come from?
I feel that is quite a lot of where it came from. So since kind of this journey started for me, this musical journey, and releasing the record, I feel that a lot of those 3-4 years I have been living in between, like here, there, everywhere, literally, like mentally, emotionally, with relationships, with my family, with my friends, in actual relationships. And it's been hard, like at times, to kind of define who you are and what's okay. And sometimes it was quite negative in the way that I felt, and sometimes it was really positive. But I think I was constantly struggling with accepting like this life over here and this life over there. And I think it wasn't until really that everything started to calm down and I started to like reflect that actually, you know, being in between is actually not a problem, and feeling a little bit lost is actually okay, because we all have that and we all go through that in our lives no matter what we do. And I think that, you know, having my life in music is cool, and having my life, you know, my private life with my family and my friends is cool. And I think that's just been like the complete, like, that's how I would sum up my past 4 years, is just being in between. And yeah.
Yeah. You almost need that balance, I would argue.
Yeah.
You know? You go crazy if you go either which way too much.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also it's just, it is difficult, but also it's like, it makes it a lot easier just kind of saying, if I want to do this, I'll do this. If I want to be with him, I'll be with him. If I want to be with her, I'll be with her. If I want to do this, do you know what I mean? And I just think people put labels on things all the time, and people always try to define you. And I think if you just kind of go with it and accept it, I think it's a lot easier. And I think that's what this record has done for me. And I've grown a lot in that and accepted a lot of that, and just to go with it and to not worry about what people think and not let people define me and just be me.
Yeah, that's a great place to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a record I don't think is out. If it's out, I need to do better detective work. It's called Thursday.
It's not out.
It's not out yet. Okay, so I want to talk about Thursday really quick, though, because you work with Steve Mack and Ed Sheeran on it.
Yeah.
And Steve Mack, everyone here, I'm sure, knows who Ed Sheeran is, but Steve Mack is one of probably the most accomplished producers, songwriters in Britain right now.
Yeah,
He did
he's
Shape of You with Ed Sheeran. He did What About Us with Pink. How did...
What about us? That's always in my head.
It's
Sometimes I wake up singing it.
He knows how to get those earworms, Steve.
Yeah, it's weird.
So talk to me about how that happened, you working with Ed and Steve.
I wrote with Steve on the last album. I wrote Take Me Home, so I really wanted to get back in with him. He's very good at drawing emotion out, but you can't write too much of him because then you just become a little bit limp. But so I set up the session with him. It was just literally me and him. And he'd been working with Ed on a few different things. And I think Ed was about, I don't know, they were doing something. And he was like, oh, is it cool if Ed comes by? I was like, yeah, cool. And I knew Ed from before anyway. And we just kind of sat for like hours chatting a lot.
You and Ed, or you and everybody?
The three of us, yeah.
Three of us.
Just literally the three of us. We were just talking about life, everything that we've all been through, what's going on, catching up, therapy session, really. And then we started like jamming, making music and having some fun. And yeah, we got some really beautiful songs down. 2 good songs. Thursday, beautiful.
What is Thursday about?
Thursday's a really beautiful song, actually. It's about kind of what we just spoke about. If I like have to choose a song that summed up the record, I think it would be Thursday.
Wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, like the first lyric of the song is, I won't wear makeup on Thursday. I'm tired of covering up. And basically, it's just kind of saying, I'm just going to do me. I'm tired of like abiding by society. If I have spots, you're going to see them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I'm going to go to the airport, if I'm going to go out, and I don't want to wear makeup, I'm going to do that. If I'm going to sit at home and chill and eat pizza, I'm going to do that. I'm normal. And it's kind of just saying that, what the hell is that?
There's a gym upstairs.
Right. Got it. Someone's throwing down some weights. It's like, oi. Okay, cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Would you say that Thursday's kind of about you being enough?
Yeah, it's saying that it's like me being who I am away from everything, the hair, the makeup, the expensive things. It should always be enough, you know?
Totally.
Like just being that is beautiful.
You've been so kind and generous in singing a little bit of these songs.
Yeah, no, I just gave you a little taste, boy.
Can we get a little tease of Thursday?
Tease of Thursday?
Yeah, a little snippet of Thursday. Could you sing a little bit of
play it?
Thursday?
Oh, I did just do that, no?
A little bit. Can we get a little more?
Oh, listen, Raz. Hello. I don't know if I remember, though. Wait. I got a cover under the feelings of robbery. I can't actually... You know what?
Putting you on the spot, I know.
Yeah, I can't even think.
Well, when do you think we can get Thursday? Do you have a release date for Thursday?
Thursday's going to come out soon.
Okay. No release date yet?
Thursday's my next single for you guys.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
So it won't be that long. My album's coming out in September.
September 21st.
21st. And I reckon Thursday will come with it.
That's awesome.
So around there. Don't hold me to it, though.
No.
But it will be coming there around.
I won't. The internet might.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Them up there, right? In the
They
gym.
all just watch you, don't they?
All right, let's turn it over to our audience. We've had some questions from the fans here in attendance. First one will come from right here.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Your voice is really dope, and you
Oh,
have some
thank you.
really sweet riffs. I just wanted to know who are like some of the artists that have inspired you and like shaped your like vision for riffs and stuff.
For riffs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Whitney?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, do you know Whitney? But I meant,
Oh.
I didn't mean to.
I'm like, Whitney.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you know Whitney? Just really kind of. She was my inspiration vocally. Like her and Mariah Carey, all of that kind of stuff was what I used to listen to. Okay. I used to copy. I used to like just try and really do everything that they could do. Not that I could do it, but they were probably my riff inspirations.
Dope. Thank you.
That's okay.
You know what's a really cool connection between you and Mariah? I meant to mention this backstage.
What's that?
So, you know, at the top, I introduced you. I said you are the female solo artist with the most number ones in UK history.
Yeah.
You know who the female solo artist with the most number ones in US history is?
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
Is it really?
Yeah. So don't sell yourself short. You're like, I can never be Mariah. You're well on your way.
She's strong.
Yeah. Took her far longer than one album. I'll say that.
I love Mariah.
She's the best.
Yeah.
Let's get to our second studio audience question.
Hi.
Hey there.
Our next question is coming from an online viewer.
Okay.
Jen wants to know which venue that you've performed in got you really emotional and why.
A venue or a specific gig? What do you think? A venue, right. I'll tell you what, when I did a headline show in London at this place called The Electric. That was probably my first proper headline show in the UK. And on a tour, and that for me was probably one of the most emotional I've been. It wasn't that big or anything, but I think just what it stood for was a lot.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, very cool. Unfortunately, Jess, we're out of time, but I
Okay.
want to thank you in closing here for
Thank you for having me.
some time with us at Build on a very busy day. You had an early morning. You were on live with
Did.
Kelly and Ryan.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Well, thank you so much again. The record, I'll Be There, is out and available everywhere, but the album, Always in Between,
Always in between.
September.
21st.
There you go.
Here
Just
we
testing
go.
you. September 21st, you can pick that up. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.